Hello, this is Jijo and welcome to Cat Weekends. This is episode number 2, and in this particular episode we're going to talk about reading comprehension. And when we talk about reading comprehension, I hear a lot of things. In fact, I hear 3 things. Number 1, sometimes the passage is really boring. If I start reading it, I don't feel like reading it, but I have to read it because this is cat and I have to get some marks, so I have to read it, so I'm reading it. Which brings us to problem number 2. I'm reading it, but I'm not really understanding it. By the time I reach paragraph number 2 or paragraph number 3, I'm already lost. I don't know what's going on. And then I'm reading it because I have to read it. After all, this is cat and I need some marks. And the third problem is the problem with options. Some of the question I feel there's an answer. I'm fairly certain there's an answer and I mark it. Sometimes I get confused between options. And most of the time I'm stuck with 2 options. I don't know what's going on here. That's a side. COVID times, ladies and gentlemen. COVID times. What can you do? It's a sad time. Alright, I hope you guys are doing well. Coming back to these 3 problems, right? The problem that stuff is boring. Problem that I get lost. Problem that I get confused between options. So how do we resolve these 3 things? So what I thought is I'll actually pick up a passage. A boring passage. A passage you might get lost in the middle. And with questions we may get confused. And let's see how to deal with these things. So you have a passage on the screen. I hope you can read this. Why don't you just pause the video and read it once? Yeah, pause it, read. So this passage has got 3 paragraphs. And I don't know where you got lost. Whether you got lost in the second paragraph or in the third paragraph, or you got lost in the beginning itself. I have no idea. Okay, but we have to manage this. Let's just read the passage and make sense of this particular passage, right? Let's go paragraph by paragraph. Paragraph number 1. Present-day philosophers usually envision their discipline as an endeavor that has been since antiquity distinct from and superior to any other intellectual discipline such as theology or science. Such philosophical concern as mind-body problem, or more generally the nature of human nature, they believe are basic human questions whose tentative philosophical solutions have served as a necessary foundation on which all other intellectual speculation has rested. What is going on? What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I have no idea what's going on. I'm sure that's how we read. I'm obviously exaggerating here a bit, but you get the point, right? So we need to read slightly better. Now, how do we read a passage? Now we are reading this to answer a question, right? And when we read passages, please do understand this one simple thing. The author who wrote this passage has an idea that the author wants to communicate, right? Something that the author wants to communicate, a thought, a view, anything. The author wants to communicate something. That's number 1. Number 2, author also has a purpose. You might say, usko kuch agenda hai. The author has some agenda. What's the purpose of the author? Now the purpose could be author merely wants to explain certain things. Okay, let's look at a textbook from your college. When you read a textbook, the purpose of the author is merely to explain some concept. The author is not going, okay, this is the 0th law of thermodynamics, and the 0th law of thermodynamics is very bad. What a stupid law. No, author doesn't say that. Author explains the concept to you, right? But author may also have another purpose, which is not just to explain, but actually to evaluate. Evaluate mean putting a point of view on this. Okay, this is good, this is bad, and give reasons. And sometimes author wants to just analyze situation. Okay, these are the positives, these are the negatives. The author may have one purpose, of course. Multiple passages will have multiple purposes, but one passage will have one purpose. So we need to understand that. Number 3, the tone. Author may have a certain attitude towards the subject that the author is writing. Maybe author is really pissed with something, or maybe author is very happy, or maybe the author is pretty neutral about it. Author does not show any emotions around it. Author may use logic to deal with it. Then you have this tone. So once the author decides that, okay, this is what I want to tell you, this is my agenda, behind writing this particular passage, and I'm going to write this particular thing. The author decides that I'm going to organize this into multiple paragraphs. In this particular case, you've got paragraph number 1, paragraph number 2, and paragraph number 3. Why is there a paragraph? Now, what is the purpose of a paragraph? Why is there a paragraph? Please do understand, like the passage has an idea, the paragraph also has an idea, and a particular paragraph will also have a particular purpose. Some paragraph may be used merely to introduce the subject. Some paragraph may be used to justify certain things. Some paragraph the author gives the example and elaborates the example. The author has a purpose for paragraph number 1. Author also has an idea in paragraph number 2 and a purpose for it. Author also has an idea in paragraph number 3 and a purpose for that particular paragraph as well. Now, if I actually look at the idea of paragraph number 1, the idea of paragraph number 2, idea of paragraph number 3, if you connect all these ideas together, there you have the organization, right? But then the paragraph is a collection of sentences. Sentence number 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know. This seems to have a lot of sentences. The first one does not have too many sentences, which is okay. Now, every sentence will have a purpose. Yeah. And every sentence will have an idea. Every sentence will have a function. I'll call function over sentences. Not every sentence is equal in function. For example, one of the sentences here is where the author actually tells us that idea. Other sentences, which I'm going to put in green signal, like how it's in traffic signal, maybe merely to explain that particular idea, maybe to elaborate that idea. So which means at the end of the day, somewhere here in this particular first paragraph, there is that one sentence which is important to me. Somewhere here, there is that one sentence which I believe is important. Somewhere here, there is that one sentence which is important from a perspective of the author. Now, if I connect all these sentences together, that one idea together, I understand the story. So I need to get the story, ladies and gentlemen. That is how you should read a passage. Now you might be wondering, sir, is story sab theek hai? But what will I do if I go to the question? The question can ask anything. Yeah, true. The question can ask anything. But if I understand the story, I know where to find answer to the question. Sometimes I'll remember the answer to the question. But in most of the cases, I know its answer is in paragraph number 2. I can go back and read if I want to read it. Sometimes my understanding of the purpose, the tone, and the idea that the author has will help me eliminate the answer choices. But when I read it, I have to read with a sense of purpose. What is my purpose? My purpose is to understand the author's purpose. Confusing. Okay, let's see how this goes. Let's start with each paragraph and figure out what to do with it. Okay, let's erase everything on the screen and start with, ladies and gentlemen, paragraph number 1. Okay, let's read first sentence. Present day philosophers. Okay, in paragraph number 1, immediately we get to know the author wants to talk about present day philosopher. And I'm going, what does the author want to talk about present day philosopher? Is he happy with present day philosopher? Is he not happy? What about present day philosopher? Usually envision their discipline. Okay, now he's saying that present day philosopher has a particular view. Good. As an endeavor that has been since antiquity, distinct from and superior to any particular intellectual discipline such as theology or science. Okay, good. So there is this present day philosopher. We're going to call them PDP. And they have a belief about philosophy. Very good. What is that belief, ladies and gentlemen? Number 1, it is distinct. Number 2, it is superior. And all these has happened since antiquity. From, God knows when. Since antiquity. That's what it is. Now let's look at what is sentence number 2 function is. Now you read and tell me, what is a function? What is a reason why sentence number 2 exists? Such philosophical concern as mind-body problems, or more generally the nature of human knowledge, they believe, are basic human questions whose tentative philosophical solutions have served as a necessary foundation on which all other intellectual speculation has rested. All I understand with sentence number 2 from a function is author wants to clarify or explain sentence number 1 further. Fair enough. So I read it. I already understood what the purpose of paragraph number 1 is. Paragraph number 1, purpose of paragraph number 1 or idea of paragraph number 1 is that present-day philosopher has a particular view about philosophy, that it is distinct, that is superior since antiquity. Alright, so if you actually look at this, the author is getting into specific, explaining us something about mind-body problem. Okay. Nature of human knowledge. Okay. But they are all the necessary foundation on which all other stuff rested. So basically, author is coming back and saying that their philosophy is superior. That's what author is explaining here. But we will just move on. I understood what is happening, paragraph number 1. Now I need to figure out what is going on in paragraph number 2. What is author's view? Is author going to explain this further? Is author going to say this is a great view? Is author tell me it's a bad view? I need to understand where the author is going. The basis of this for this view, however, whenever you see this word, however, you know author now is almost going, something is a problem, there is a problem, lies in a serious misinterpretation of the past. So some problem, author is basically saying that there is absolutely some problem with this, and at this point in time, I need to understand what the problem is. A projection of modern concern onto past event. The idea of an autonomous discipline called philosophy, distinct from and sitting in judgment on such pursuits, theology and science, so something that is distinct and something that is superior, that idea turns out on a close examination to be of quiet, recent origin. The idea that philosophy is distinct, the idea of philosophy is superior, is something that has happened quite recently. What does this philosopher think? This philosopher think that there have been since antiquity. Author is saying the author has a problem with this. No. This is wrong. Basically, it has happened quite recently. The philosophy being different, the philosophy being superior, that idea is not something that has happened since antiquity. That's an idea that has happened pretty recently. Ladies and gentlemen, I understood that this is the point. Now, at this point in time, you can by and large imagine what the author is going to do here. Author will have probably 2 jobs. Imagine this is a movie and author is explaining this to the viewers. The viewers need to understand. Author, tell me please. I don't know how many of you watched some movies. Tenet. We didn't understand anything when we watched the movie. I'm not talking about those kind of movies, but you get the point, right? Right. So, 2 things. If it is recent, one of the questions that I need is when? How recent? And why is it recent? Why not since antiquity? Those would be the questions that I'm interested in. Let's see what's going on. When in the 17th century, now author is getting into 17th century. What happened in 17th century? So, okay. Date is important, no? He's talking about quite recent. When in 17th century, Descartes and Hobbes rejected medieval philosophy. They did not think of themselves as modern philosophers do, as proposing a new and better philosophy, but rather as furthering the warfare between science and theology. They were fighting, albeit discreetly, to open the intellectual world to new science and to liberate intellectual life from ecclesiastical philosophy and envision their work has contributed to the growth not of philosophy but of research in mathematics and physics. What is that? Okay, so don't worry, we understood the purpose. This is probably one of those movie scenes, what is going on in this movie? Why are the 2 people dancing now? Okay, why are they dancing? It's a sad scene. Why are they dancing? You have all these questions when you watch movie. You say, okay, let's leave it. I understood what the story is. Our author has a problem. Author said the present day philosopher think that philosophy has been superior since antiquity. Author said, no, it is a recent origin. And author is saying that in 17th century, philosopher thought that is Descartes and Hobbes did something. No. They were not proposing any new philosophy. They were actually fighting different war between theology and science, between religion and science. They were not doing anything to philosophy. This link between philosophical interest and scientific practice persisted until the 19th century. Another date, ladies and gentlemen. Something happening in the 19th century. When decline in ecclesiastical power over scholarship and changes in the natural science provided the final separation from philosophy of provoke the final separation of philosophy from both. So basically, author is saying that happened in the 19th century, ladies and gentlemen. All this yarn is giving is to basically say this. It is recent, 19th century. Come on, what is this? Yeah. So I know there is this part here, which I'm going to put here, that is something probably would have gone boom. But I'm okay with it because I understand the story. If I understand the story, certain details I may not completely understand. Now I know that there could be a question which will force me probably ask about this Descartes and Hobbes and what happened in the 17th century. If the question forces me with a gun and saying that you have to go back and visit that particular part of the passage, then I'll go back. But what I should not be missing are two things. Is that author is saying there is a serious misinterpretation. That I should not be missing. That it happened quite recent. That I should not be missing. And it happened in 19th century. That I should not be missing. I can miss anything else in this particular paragraph, but I cannot miss this. So it seems to be the second paragraph is to me the most crucial paragraph. The author has said that. Now you almost start thinking, where is the story going to go? Author has now made the case that thing happened in the 19th century. Probably now, what the author is going to do is to explain to me what happened in the 19th century. What happened? Okay, let's see. The demarcation of philosophy from science was facilitated by the development of, in the early 19th century, of a new notion. Philosophy's core interest should be epistemology. Okay, so what changed it? It changed epistemology. Now at this point in time, you're going that what is this thing called epistemology? I have never heard this word. Doesn't matter. If you don't heard this word, just call it X. How does it matter? Right. Okay. Epistemology is about knowledge. Yeah. One of the branches of philosophy dealing with knowledge, by the way. But that's okay. All we know is a change happened in the 19th century. What happened in the 19th century? Basically, this fellow called epistemology is the hero of the story. Epistemology is the hero of the story. Let's call him the hero with a lot of muscles. Oh, sorry for that stupid muscle. Okay, let's call epistemology. Epistemology said, look, I have changed. Okay, that is what happened. The general explanation of what is meant to know something. So basically, this particular part here, ladies and gentlemen, is after the comma is, so let me put another color here, green. Okay. This particular, oops, again red. Where is the green? There is a green. Okay. This particular part, ladies and gentlemen, is essentially giving us an explanation of this concept called epistemology. That's it. So fair enough. Modern philosophers now trace that notion back to Descartes and Spinoza. Oh, actually they trace it back. But actually the change happened in the 19th century. But people trace it back to something else. That's what author is saying, that projection of modern concern onto past event. You're looking at something modern and tracing it to past event. Basically it happened in the 19th century. It did not happen. It traced it back then. Okay, anyways, let's carry on. But it was not explicitly articulated until the late 18th century by Kant, and did not become built into the structure of academic institution and standard descriptions of philosophy professors until the late 19th century. Without the idea of epistemology, the survival of philosophy in the age of modern science is hard to imagine. Metaphysics, philosophy's traditional core, considered as a most general description of how the heavens and earth are put together, had been rendered almost completely meaningless by the spectacular progress of physics. So there was something else called metaphysics. Metaphysics has died. Oh, why science basically came and attacked metaphysics. So then the hero came, epistemology. And who did it? Mr. Kant. That's now how the name is pronounced. So if I can't, you can check the pronunciation and then you know why I'm not using that pronunciation. Okay, we'll call it Kant. सब कान का कांट है basically, है ना? Let's see. Where are we? Kant, however, by focusing philosophy on the problem of knowledge, managed to replace metaphysics with epistemology. Kant ने metaphysics को लेके epistemology कर दिया. मस्त. Too much. Wah, Kant, wah. and thus to transform the notion of philosophy as queen of sciences into the new notion of philosophy as a separate foundational discipline. The separation, something that is distinct, that whole thing happened in the 19th century, and whatever work that Kant did by looking at not metaphysics but looking at epistemology. That's all. Where are we? Philosophy became primary no longer in terms of the highest but in terms of the underlying. After Kant, philosophers were able to reinterpret 17th and 18th century thinkers as attempting to discover how is our knowledge possible and to project this question back onto the ancients. So basically, ये सब होने के बाद now this philosopher thinking, oh actually ना इसके पहले भी हुआ है. Others say no. So what is the story? So a lot of khichdi has happened. I think that this looks like a Christopher Nolan movie here, but don't worry. Sorry about all the khichdi's here. My doodling work. So basic story is what? Philosophers thought that philosophy is superior and distinct from antiquity. Authors said, it is recent. You think Descartes did something in 17th century? No. Recent. When? 19th century. What happened? Epistemology happened. Who happened? Kant happened. Finished. Now that is the idea that I'm going to have. With this idea, we'll move to the question. So number one is problem about, is it boring? Yeah, it is boring if you think it is boring. But you can, that's up to you. Why you consider this a boring thing? Why should this be boring? It's pretty exciting. Kant is a living person. The philosophers are living people. Descartes is a living, they all died. But these present day philosophers did not die, but they are all human beings in flesh. With families, with ideas. So living people. So I think that if you care about the particular passage and make it exciting in your mind, it will be exciting. Number two, if you focus on the story, understanding the idea of every single passage, understanding the red signals. For example, present day philosophers think that philosophy has been distinct and superior. Let's, for example, get this thing and look at the red signal. Let's do that as well. Why not? So paragraph number 1, what is the idea here? The idea is that present day philosopher usually emphasize their discipline, something since antiquity, it's distinct and superior to everything else. Author said it's a serious misinterpretation. Why? It's quite recent. Okay, basically when? 19th century. Oh, what happened in 19th century? Epistemology. Who did it? Mr. Kant did it. Story over. The rest of the thing in the passage are all helping authors put that point across. Right. Now, let's see if this understanding is enough to answer the question. Let's look at question number 1. Which of the following expresses the author's main point? This question I'm going to call is a question called the global question. What do I mean by global question? Global questions are those questions which are questions like main idea, primary purpose, tone, the question from a big picture point of view. What is the point? You can pause the video. I'm sure that the answer will be telling you, pick me, pick me, pick me. I think what is the point? The point is that there is a serious misinterpretation of and the philosophy is some, as I said, the thing is quite recent. This is the point, right? Philosophy's overriding interest in basic human question is a legacy primarily of the work of Kant. No, author's primary objective is not to say all these things. What is this? Author is basically saying that present day philosopher got something wrong. That is the main point. Philosophy was deeply involved in the 17th century warfare between science and religion. What is it? Look at this way in which this question setter has created this question. Somewhere here he has picked up some random words and gave it to you and said that, look, that is the story. Okay, it's like after watching the movie, I don't know what movie. What is the movie all about? The movie is all about songs. 4 songs. Amazing item numbers. That's what B sounds like. See, the set of problems of primary importance to philosophers has remained relatively constant since antiquity. What the problem remained constant since antiquity? What is all this? The status of philosophy as an independent intellectual pursuit is a relatively recent development. That, ladies and gentlemen, should be the answer. Is relatively recent. It's the fact that philosophy is independent intellectual, something that is distinct, is something that happened recently. And the choice is D. The role of philosophy is guiding intellectual speculation and gradually being observed by science. No, chuck it. Let's go to question number 2. According to the passage, okay, present day philosophers believe that mind. What is present day philosophers believe? Present day philosophers believe in the first paragraph, right? What present day philosophers believe? You can read the 5 answer choices, and one of the answer choices might say pick me, or some of the answer choice may say ditch me, which means ditch me is elimination. You can do that. If you feel confused, you can go back to the passage and read. Has implication primarily for philosophers? What is this word? May be affected by the recent advances in science. Where is that mention about present day philosophers' thought? Has shaped recent work in epistemology? No, epistemology is in different context about what Kant did. We are talking about what present day philosophers think. Has little relevance present day philosophy? Come on. Has served as a basis for intellectual speculation since antiquity. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that this will be the right answer choice. Absolutely right. Let's look at question number 3. According to the author, philosophy became distinct from science and theology when? 19th century. Perfect. There is nothing else needs to be done. Let's move on. Question number 4. The author suggests that Descartes' support for the new science of 17th century can be characterized as. Oh, Descartes has come, Descartes has come, Descartes has come. Now you might be looking at, okay, now let's look at something. Okay, suggest. That word says it is actually not mentioned directly, but something that is revealed by the passage. The author suggests that Descartes' support can be viewed as, okay, so what according to you would the author think about Descartes? Okay, first of all, is author absolutely unhappy with him? What Descartes? What are you doing? No, right? Author gali bali to nahi diya. Will author think Descartes is hypocritical, inconsistent, opportunistic? Opportunistic is a negative word. So people who are taking opportunity out of unethical stuff. That is the whole thing. Fleeting. What is all this word? All negative words, ladies and gentlemen. Let's ditch all that words. Strong, but prudent, but practical. So here, something is mentioned here. Albeit discreetly. They were fighting, albeit discreetly, but they were fighting practically, prudently. They were fighting, trying to change the battle between science and theology. So author has no such negative attitude to Descartes. So chuck all this answer choice. Question number 5. The author of the passage implies which of the following in discussing the development of philosophy during the 19th century? What happened in the 19th century, ladies and gentlemen? Kant ka Kant. D. Kant had an overwhelming impact on the direction of 19th century philosophy. Done. You can check the other answer choices and know that those answer choices will be wrong. 19th century philosophy took science as its model. Epistemology. The role of academic institution in shaping metaphysical philosophy grew. Metaphysical philosophy grew. No. 19th century philosopher carried out a program explicitly laid out by Descartes. No. 19th century philosophy made major advances understanding the nature of knowledge. We don't know. What we know is Kant did some Kida. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. 5 questions. So, what did you learn? You learned that feeling bored, feeling lost, feeling confused, these are all symptoms. These are not problems, right? And so when you prepare for reading comprehension, you should prepare and solve reading comprehension with a sense of excitement. Number 1. Number 2, when you solve reading comprehension passage, read reading comprehension passage, understand the purpose of the author. Develop the ability to understand the function of sentences. Develop the ability to understand the idea of sentences. Develop the ability to understand the structure of passage. Whenever you solve reading comprehension passage, resolve the passage once again and look at the passage with this particular angle and be very excited in solving reading comprehension, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this session was beneficial. I'll see you again in a new episode. Bye bye.